Hi everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So today is going to be a bit of a DIY video. It's just going to show you how I've made these dividers, or well, how I've made one of these dividers using the envelope tissue paper that comes with Kikki.k orders. I shared a photo of these on Facebook and I had a couple of people ask me to do this video, so that's why I'm doing it. Just to give you a bit of a backstory, these are two that I just made up as guides, so I was just experimenting with what worked better. This first one is just the tissue paper gone through a laminator just as it is. I do really like it, but I think it's not quite bold enough. I think it looks a bit faded. Whereas this one, which is what I'm going to do today, is the tissue paper stuck to white paper and sent through the laminator the same way. The only downside that I can see to either of these is the fact that once it's laminated you can't really put anything on the back, so they do stay a bit plain. You could also always get around that by doing the decorations on the back before you send it through the laminator, and that solves the problem. But I'm just going to show you how I'm going to make a set of these just with plain white background, and I'm actually going to do it as a bit of a giveaway. So if you do like these, let me know and I'll do a bit of a giveaway at the end, and I'll give away a set of these. So what I've done to start with, just so I can sort of show you, put that one over to the side. I've just been using my wellness dividers as kind of templates. So I've made a bunch of these already so that I'll just show you one so it saves a bit of time. So all I do is I trace these out and I'll show you now. Duh. So you can see I've done all but two of them. One of them's obviously already done, so that's that one. So I'm just going to do this one now, which should be this one, I hope. Always just check. Better to be safe than sorry. Yep, that's the one. So all I do is I grab a piece of paper. This paper it's craft paper, so it's a bit thicker than regular paper, but it's not quite cardboard. Because it's going to go through the laminator, that's going to solve that problem of not quite being thick enough. So all I do is I line up my template on the paper, just grab a lead pencil and just trace around the outside. Doesn't matter if you've missed a little bit like I have there, because it's not going to make too much of a difference. And then just grab a ruler, try not to be loud like I am, and then this just makes it easier when you're using the paper trimmer. I just rule out the extension of that line so that it's a bit easier, and I do the same thing for the tab, and you'll see why in a sec. And then also, just to make this line a little bit thicker, whoops. There we go. So they're all your basic lines. If you really want to be completely pedantic about this, you obviously can be. I'm not being completely pedantic about it. I think a little bit of imperfection never hurt anybody, so I don't mind if they're not completely perfect. Now, depending on how perfectionist you want to be with this next bit, if you want them to be the exact same size as the dividers that are coming out of your planner already, then you need to cut these with the line just slightly over, so you're cutting slightly inside the line. If you don't mind, cut right on the line. If you want it a bit bigger, go the other side of the line. I'm going to cut these just inside the lines, or as close to that as I can. Again, this will never be perfect because I'm not perfect and I can never make anything perfect. But you give it a good old try. And the best thing about using a trimmer is that you know you'll be square. So you just cut them out along the lines. You can make sure that your lines line up along that guide. Okay. And then this next part's completely up to you. It depends on how good you are at cutting straight lines. I suck at it, so I always use the trimmer just to get the first little bit of that inside one done, and then I just go in with a pair of scissors and cut around the tab. You can always add the tabs in later if this part kind of bothers you, if you're not very good at getting around the tabs, it can always be added on, especially because you're going to stick stuff down. It doesn't need to be all in one go, but I just find it not so bad. I think I've done them enough that I've become good at getting around this corner. And I say that and then I mess it up. Ha, the irony. So there we go. That's what it looks like when it's been all cut out. The next thing I do is I just really gently, well, kind of gently, just rub out all the pencil marks, because that is going to show up. Oh, sorry, I forgot. You always just round the top off on that corner. Because this side is going to be the side that appears, like, so you stick the paper down here. Don't have to, you can obviously flip these over if you wanted to. I just make sure that all the pencil marks are gone. And then you'll see, except for that one, I've missed a pencil mark, but I'll rub that out in a sec. They do line up pretty well. My biggest gripe is they never seem to line up along here. This particular set I seem to have done a good job of. Go me. And they have actually worked. But what I mean with the flipping, you can obviously have them this way if you like. It's just that the square, like I've rounded the top, not the bottom. So you could round both obviously, but we'll go with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you just how to stick this down. Obviously it's not very complicated, but I'll show you one and then I'll go ahead and make all the others and then come back in fast time, and then I'll show you the finished product at the end. So I'm just grabbing this Kikki.k paper. This is obviously one that I've used already. I was really lucky. I went into my local store and Sammy let me take a couple of extra sheets of this at no charge. So you can ask in your store if you can take a couple of extra bits if you don't have any lying around. If you do have some lying around, the folds don't matter. You're never going to notice them, I swear. But if you've only got one piece, what I would suggest is put all of your dividers out on a sheet, cut them out so that you know you've got enough, because you need to put them this way. You can't like try and put it this way because the envelopes just look a bit funny. So you do need to have the envelopes going the right way. So all I do is I just put it down where I want it and then just cut out roughly around the outside. Okay, so sorry about that. I just had to rush out to Officeworks to get some more tape, because just as I was thinking of it, I thought about something I needed to tell you guys. So just as a bit of a precaution, whatever kind of tape, glue, etc. you're using, just cut a little bit of an offcut of the paper. And I'm just going to show you why. So grab hold of the glue tape. So this is the glue tape that I was using. You can see that it's pink. And when I put that on here, you can see the pink through the paper. So just check. I'm pretty sure this one doesn't, because I think I've used it before. So because this one is clear, you can see that I don't have that problem. So just test before you stick any of this down, because you don't want to waste this paper. Just do a test of your glue tape or your glue or whatever you happen to be using to make sure that it's not going to come through, because you don't want to get it all stuck down and realize that you've got pink bits all through it. So that was what I just had to do. I just had to go out and get some glue tape. So excuse the change of slight light and the clothes I'm wearing. So let's go back to what we were doing. So what you do, grab hold of your now see-through glue tape and just put the lines as close to the edges as you can. Doesn't matter if you come a little bit off. And then just do a couple of lines down the middle just to make sure it sticks. And then just place, now with this glue tape, the Bostick one, if you do get the Bostick glue tape, just be aware that it is not repositionable at all. Once it's down, it's down. So try not to have to do this more than once, like I just did. rescue it? Yes, I can rescue it. Just be gentle with it. Go. And then just rub that to make sure that it's stuck. You will notice a couple of little bits of crinkles in here. That's not a bad thing. It just gives you a bit of character. That's the word I wanted. So once that's stuck, depending on how pedantic you want to be, if you want to put this in between like a paper lover's book or something, just so it can really get flat, you can. I left the other one for about half an hour. You don't have to. The suggestion I would have is cut it out first, which is what I'm going to do in a second. Stick it in the paper while you're doing the other ones, and then by the time you're ready to actually laminate these, they'll all be perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out all around the outside. You can do this either with your paper trimmer, or you can do it by hand. It depends on how good you are at cutting. My suggestion would be to use the paper trimmer for at least a bit of it, and then go in and just trim off anything that's left. That tends to be a bit of you're double handling it. The cardboard or the paper that I'm using is strong enough that you know if you've hit the cardboard, but again, it just depends on how steady your hands are. Mine aren't that great. Mine tend to wobble. If you do the tops, you should then be able to do the bottoms, like the sides, with the trimmer, because they'll be square. Does that make sense? The bottom and the top will be square so that the edges are a bit easier. Next bit, like this bit here, it's probably easier just to do this bit by hand. You can do it with a craft knife if you really want to be really precise with it. And then it's completely up to you if you want to use the paper trimmer to sort of finish it off. I'm going to try it because I keep messing it up, but I'll give it a shot now. Yeah, nearly got there. So the worst part with this, and the easiest way to do it, is to hold it up, which means it's really hard for you guys to see what I'm doing right now. But if you hold it up, you can see through the paper because it's so thin, and it's a bit easier to cut this way than the other way. If you're left-handed, this won't be anywhere near as hard. There we go. So that's what it looks like when it's finished. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put that in the standing up. I'm going to grab my Flow Paper Lovers book just because it's the heaviest one I've got. And I'm just going to put that in there to lay flat while I stick down the paper on all the other ones, and I'll be back very soon. Now I still do have 2 to go, which I'll go back to in just a sec, but I just needed to show you something. So I'm having issues with my scissors at the moment because they've got all the glue stuck on them. So this is just the way that I clean mine. This is just normal eucalyptus oil that you can get from, it from the chemist, you can get it from the supermarket. And all I do is open your scissors up all the way, put some on the tissue and just rub it off. Eucalyptus oil will naturally dissolve the sticky. It's really, really, really technical and scientific term, but it will dissolve the sticky. And it has a really nice smell. Just don't use too much of it because then it will really smell. So I'm having issues because that tissue paper is so fragile. It's actually getting stuck to that, so that's how come I've had to stop halfway through and make sure that I'm getting all the sticky off, because you don't want to accidentally tear it, because even though it's stuck it will come off, especially around some of those delicate edges. You really don't want that. I think you can also do this with vinegar. I think vinegar works too, but I like the smell. There you go. Good as new. Let's put that off to the side. I always just grab another tissue just to wipe along the edges, and that way if there is any more sticky bits left, you're soon going to find out. And now my scissors smell pretty. So I just have 2 to go, so I'll be back very soon. So now that I've got all that done, that took a really long time. They're all sitting in here, I've got no idea where they all are, so I'll just sort of, no, that part fell out. I knew it would. If I can make a couple of suggestions with doing that, make sure your scissors are sharp. That paper is really easy to cut through, and if your scissors are blunt, it's actually not going to cut them as nicely, so make sure that they are reasonably sharp. Sorry, this is going to take me a minute to do this, so I'm going to talk to you while I do it. Yeah, make sure your scissors are sharp. Make sure that you're in a comfortable position, because it's going to take you a long time. And just something I sort of noticed, which I don't know whether or not it's actually true, but the paper that I got from the store seems to be slightly thinner than the paper that I had lying around from my last couple of deliveries. So if you're going to get it from in-store, just be careful that that particular paper might be a little bit skinnier or a bit more like tissue paper than the stuff that comes in your delivery boxes. I feel like I'm doing a flick through. I know I'm not, but it feels like I am. Maybe there was another one somewhere. Everything's just sort of, because the backs are slightly sticky, they are sticking to the book. That's okay, no problem with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm missing one. There's one still in the book somewhere. There we go. So I've rescued them all now. So you can see there, they all sit nicely together. They all look okay. The last one's obviously this one, which is already finished. So the next thing to do, and you can do this, you don't have to do it in this order. I like to mark the holes out, punch the holes out now, then they're easier to do when they've been laminated. So I'm going to go through, draw all the holes in and punch all the holes out, and then I'll be back in just a sec. So there we go, all the holes are now punched. The one thing I will suggest is every once in a while, just have a look, make sure the holes all line up. You will get the gist of where the holes are the more you punch, but just to be on the safe side, if something doesn't feel right, I'd suggest measuring twice and cutting once, because once it's cut you can't change it. So the next thing I'm going to do, which is going to take a little while again, and I'm going to have to speed through it, is you need to laminate all of these. You don't have to. If you want to leave it like that, you can. They will get dirty very quickly though, so I suggest laminating them. I'm going to send these all through the laminator, and I'm going to cut them all out, and I'm going to be back when they're all done, so this could take a while. Stay tuned. Okay, so now they're all sent through the laminator. This is something that I do, and I'll do it off camera once I'm finished, but I always send them through again after I've punched the next lot of holes. That's just me, that's a personal thing. You don't have to do it by any stretch, but I won't do it on camera because it'll take too long. So I'll just do it off camera once I'm finished. So just as they're coming through and cooling down, I always put something heavy on top of them. It just stops them bending or doing anything else while they're actually warm. That one's upside down. Upside down, upside down. Good thing they don't look like that. That would be scary. So the easiest way to do this next part is to get yourself the biggest paper trimmer you've got and do it by sight. Don't measure stuff, it'll be so much harder. But all I do is I have a look at where the laminating sort of stops, and I give it about an extra mil, because you want it to be as close as you can without ruining that laminating sort of bubble. And that's why I send it back through, because if you do accidentally hit that bubble, it will open, it will split, but if you push it back down again and send it back through, it will actually reseal itself. So you can be a little bit kind of extra with it. But don't trust your guide with this, because you may not have put it in straight in the first place. So use your eyes, be as close as you can, but trust your own eyesight as opposed to trusting the actual measurements on these. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these out, and I'll be back very soon. Go. They're all cut out. The only thing left to do now is punch the holes out again. I use a slightly different hole punch for this one. This one's one I got from Officeworks. It's just a 1 hole punch. It's a lot bigger than the other one, and the reason I use it is that extra little bit. Oh no, it's going to work because I've cut so close. It would actually work. You can use either or. This one just gives you can obviously get in a lot further. I usually use it on my other dividers, but I will use this one because I like it better. So you just punch out all the holes, which I'm going to go ahead and do as quick as I possibly can. And then I'll be back to show you the finished product. Rightio, so there we go. That is the finished product. I'm really proud of 2 things. Number 1, I'm really proud that this has lined up pretty much perfectly, which never works for me. And the holes pretty much worked out exactly where they were. So I'm even more proud because that never happens, ever. So I'm actually really proud that I'm going to give these away to somebody. They aren't perfect. They are handmade. Obviously, you've just seen me make them. So they're definitely not perfect by any stretch, but the holes match up, the edges match up, and they are completely laminated. There is no sort of peeling away, and they will go through the laminator again in a minute. So I'm really happy with this. I think they've turned out excellently. I'm going to make myself another set later, not on camera, because this has taken like an hour and a half. This is not a quick process by any stretch. If you are going to do this, have a whole day. For goodness sakes, have a whole day, because it will take you a long time. But the general gist of that can be used to make any dividers. Just grab a set that you already have, trace them out on some cardboard, some paper, and go for it. I make all my own dividers. I don't like using the ones that Kikki.k send me, mainly because I don't like to have anything on my tabs. I know what I'm putting where, and I kind of rather color code than write them on there, but that's just me. So I hope you guys liked this video. I'm sorry it's so long. Good thing you can speed through things, huh? If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up. As I said, I will give these away. I'm not putting any limitations on this one. If you're from the States, if you're from England, wherever you're from, enter the competition. The way you're going to enter, just leave me a comment down below and follow me on Instagram. I'll match them up. Just let me know what your Instagram name is. Just comment what your Instagram name is. I'll find you on there. Make sure you've added me on both. And if you have, I will put you in a contest and I will draw the winner out next week. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. My Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat are down below. Feel free to follow me on all of them. Follow me on Instagram if you want to be entered into the competition. And otherwise, I will see you guys again really, really soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.